Most people spend their entire lives working exceptionally hard, and dying financially invisible. Not because they lack effort. Not because they lack intelligence. But because they were never taught the skills that actually create wealth. Schools teach obedience. Corporations teach compliance. Nobody teaches strategy. Sun Tzu understood something modern society conveniently forgets: the outcome of any battle is decided long before the fighting begins. Wars are not won on the battlefield, they are won in positioning, timing, and psychology, weeks or years earlier. The same law governs wealth. By the time you witness someone's success, the real work, the invisible work, happened long before anyone was watching. This is the wealth most people never notice. Not the money. The mechanism. There are 7 of these unspoken skills. None of them are taught in school. None of them require luck, inheritance, or a lucky break. They are quiet. Deliberate. Almost invisible to anyone who isn't looking for them. And once you see them, you will notice something uncomfortable: the people around you who seem ahead in life are not smarter or luckier. They simply learned to operate differently, while everyone else was taught to labor. Sun Tzu warned that the greatest generals win without ever appearing to fight. The same is true of wealth. The people who build real power rarely look like they are trying. They are not chasing money. They are engineering position, patience, perception, and leverage, quietly, methodically, while the rest of the world mistakes busyness for progress. Most people will spend decades fighting a financial battle they were never equipped to win, because no one ever showed them the terrain. That changes now. In the next few minutes, you will learn 7 unspoken skills, strategic tools used, consciously or not, by every person who has ever built lasting wealth and quiet power. Skills so subtle you have probably walked past them your entire life without recognizing them for what they were. The first one begins with a lesson Sun Tzu considered the foundation of every victory, and it has nothing to do with hard work at all. Sun Tzu wrote that all warfare is based on deception. Not because deception is dishonest, but because premature information is a weapon handed to your opponent for free. Every plan revealed too early becomes a plan someone else can interfere with, imitate, or undermine. Wealth follows the same law, though almost no one is ever taught to see it that way. Watch how the average person handles ambition. They announce the new business idea before it has a single customer. They tell coworkers about the job offer before the contract is signed. They post the investment before it has proven itself. Every announcement feels like progress, but it is often the opposite. It invites doubt, competition, and interference into a plan that was never strong enough to survive contact yet. The wealthy tend to operate in reverse. They let outcomes speak. Not from arrogance, but from strategy. A person negotiating a raise who has quietly secured a competing offer holds real leverage. The moment they mention that offer too early, before it is finalized, they have handed their leverage away for nothing. Sun Tzu would recognize this instantly: the army that reveals its position before it is ready to strike has already lost the advantage of surprise. This is not about secrecy for its own sake. It is about timing disclosure so that information only moves in your favor. Rockefeller was famous for saying almost nothing about his next move until it was already done. Competitors were left reacting to decisions they never saw coming. But concealment alone is not enough. A hidden plan built on the wrong location, the wrong market, the wrong foundation is still a losing plan. Sun Tzu's deeper teaching was never about hiding, it was about being unassailable before anyone even knows you are moving. Which raises the real question most people never ask themselves: are you actually positioned to win, or are you simply quiet about a battle you were never going to win anyway? That is where the next skill begins. Sun Tzu taught that the skilled strategist first makes himself invincible, then waits for the enemy to become vulnerable. Invincibility, in his teaching, has nothing to do with aggression. It is about defense, preparation, and position, building a foundation so solid that when opportunity finally appears, victory is almost guaranteed before the first move is even made. Most people do the opposite. They chase opportunity directly, without ever building the ground beneath it. They jump at a business idea with no savings behind them. They take a promotion with no skills to sustain it. They invest in a market they don't understand, hoping enthusiasm will substitute for preparation. This is not strategy. It is gambling disguised as ambition. Consider two employees at the same company. One spends years quietly building expertise, relationships, and financial reserves, invisible progress no one applauds. The other chases every visible opportunity, every project, every promotion, every shiny title. When a real opportunity finally appears, a merger, a market shift, a sudden opening, the first employee is positioned to seize it instantly. The second is still scrambling to catch up, because visibility was mistaken for readiness. This is the quiet difference between people who seem to get lucky and people who do not. Luck rewards position. Warren Buffett did not wait for the 2008 financial crisis to decide he wanted opportunity. He had spent decades accumulating the capital and discipline to act the moment others panicked. When the market broke, he was already standing in the right place. Sun Tzu's lesson is not passive. Positioning is active work, done in silence, long before anyone notices. It is the discipline of preparing for a war you have not yet been invited to fight. But even perfect positioning fails without one more skill, the ability to understand exactly who and what you are truly dealing with. That is where everything shifts next. Sun Tzu insisted that no battle could be won without first understanding the terrain, the ground, the weather, the enemy's mindset. In wealth building, the most important terrain is never a market or an industry. It is people. Their fears, their incentives, their blind spots, their unspoken motivations. Most people never learn to read this terrain, and it costs them more than any bad investment ever could. This is not manipulation. Sun Tzu never taught his generals to deceive for cruelty's sake. He taught them to understand deeply enough that conflict became unnecessary. The same principle applies to negotiation, business, and leadership. A person who understands what someone truly fears losing, or truly wants to gain, can negotiate a deal in minutes that would take an untrained person months of friction to achieve. Think of a small business owner negotiating with a supplier. The untrained approach is to argue over price. The strategic approach is to understand what the supplier actually values: reliability, volume, timing, reputation, and negotiate around that instead. Andrew Carnegie built much of his empire not through aggressive domination, but by deeply understanding what his partners, competitors, and workers needed, and positioning himself as the answer before they even asked. This skill also protects against manipulation. Someone who cannot read human terrain becomes easy prey for those who can, trusting the wrong partner, entering the wrong deal, mistaking charm for competence. Sun Tzu's warning that ignorance of the enemy guarantees defeat in every battle applies just as sharply to a handshake as it does to a battlefield. Most people evaluate opportunities using numbers alone. The strategic mind evaluates the people behind the numbers first, because people, not spreadsheets, ultimately decide whether an opportunity holds or collapses. But understanding people is only half the equation. Knowing when to act on that understanding, and when to simply wait, is where most ambition quietly destroys itself. Sun Tzu warned that the general who rushes into battle before conditions favor him has already defeated himself. Patience, in his teaching, was never passivity, it was a weapon, sharpened in silence, waiting for the exact moment when action guarantees the greatest advantage. Most people never learn this. They mistake movement for progress, and impulse for courage. Financial ruin rarely comes from one catastrophic decision. It comes from dozens of small, impatient ones: the investment made out of fear of missing out, the job accepted out of desperation, the purchase made to soothe anxiety rather than build position. Each decision feels urgent in the moment. None of them were made from strength. Consider two investors during a market downturn. One panics, sells at a loss, and later watches the recovery from the sidelines. The other does nothing, not because he lacks conviction, but because he already positioned himself to survive the downturn before it happened. His patience is not hesitation. It is the final stage of a plan built months or years earlier. Charlie Munger built much of his reputation not on frequent action, but on the discipline to do nothing for years at a time, waiting for the rare moment worth acting on decisively. This is where the average person struggles most. Waiting feels like losing. Culture rewards visible hustle, not invisible discipline. But Sun Tzu understood that the appearance of inactivity often conceals the most dangerous kind of readiness, a force gathering strength precisely because it refuses to move too soon. The wealthy are not more patient by personality. They are more patient by strategy, because they understand that timing multiplies the value of every decision that follows it. But patience without knowing which battles deserve your energy at all is still a wasted weapon. That is the mistake almost everyone makes next. Sun Tzu never advised his generals to win every war offered to them. He advised something far more difficult, knowing which wars not to fight at all. A commander who engages every enemy, defends every border, and chases every skirmish will exhaust his resources long before he meets the battle that actually decides his fate. Wealth building follows the exact same law, and almost no one is taught to see it. The average person treats every opportunity as one they must chase, every job opening, every side hustle, every investment trend, every next big thing. Energy, time, and capital get scattered across a dozen half-committed battles instead of concentrated where they could actually win. This is not ambition. It is strategic exhaustion disguised as effort. Consider a small business owner offered 3 new ventures at once. The untrained instinct is to say yes to all 3, believing more opportunity means more success. The strategic mind asks a harder question: which one, if one completely, changes everything else? Jeff Bezos famously refused to diversify Amazon into countless tempting side ventures in its early years, concentrating resources on one core battle until it was unbeatable. Expansion came only after that foundation was secured. This is the discipline most people never develop, the willingness to say no to good opportunities in order to remain fully committed to the one opportunity that matters most. Sun Tzu warned that the army spread thin everywhere is weak everywhere. A person spread thin across 10 mediocre pursuits is, in practice, defeated in all of them simultaneously. Selectivity is not caution. It is concentration of force, directing every resource toward the one battle capable of transforming everything else. But winning a single battle rarely happens alone. The next skill reveals why the people who reach real power almost never get there in isolation. Sun Tzu placed enormous strategic value on alliances, not the loud, transactional kind, but the quiet, long-term relationships between allied states that could be called upon when it mattered most. He understood that no single force, however strong, could outlast an enemy indefinitely without support. Wealth follows the same hidden law. Almost no one builds real power entirely alone, yet almost no one is taught how alliances are actually built. The average person treats networking as transactional, a favor traded for a favor, a connection made only when something is immediately needed. This kind of relationship collapses the moment it stops being useful. It is built on urgency, not trust, and urgency rarely lasts. The strategic mind builds differently. Alliances are formed years before they are needed, often without any visible return at the time. A conversation, a favor given without expectation, a reputation for reliability built quietly over years, these become leverage precisely because they were never built to extract anything. Naval Ravikant has spoken often about how his most valuable opportunities came not from calculated networking, but from long-standing relationships built on genuine trust, cultivated long before any deal was on the table. Consider 2 professionals at the same company. One collects contacts, treating every interaction as a potential transaction. The other quietly becomes known as someone reliable, competent, and trustworthy, never asking for anything in return. Years later, when a critical opportunity appears, it is the second person who gets the call, not because they asked for it, but because trust had already been silently deposited, waiting to be drawn upon. Sun Tzu understood that allies won through genuine strength arrive when summoned. Allies won through manipulation vanish the moment they are needed most. But even the strongest alliances mean little if the world misreads who you actually are. That misreading, or the deliberate shaping of it, is the final and most powerful skill of all. Sun Tzu offered one of his most quoted teachings almost as a passing remark: appear weak when you are strong, and appear strong when you are weak. On the surface, this sounds like deception. Beneath the surface, it is one of the deepest truths about power. Perception is not a side effect of strategy. It is the strategy. Most people believe reputation is something that happens to them, shaped by luck or circumstance. The strategic mind understands reputation is engineered, quietly and deliberately, over time. What others believe about your capability, your resources, and your intentions often matters more than the reality itself, because people react to perception long before they discover the truth. Consider two negotiators entering the same deal. One reveals every constraint, every deadline, every weakness, believing honesty alone earns respect. The other reveals nothing unnecessary, allowing the other side to assume strength where none has been confirmed. The second negotiator rarely lies. They simply control what is seen, and what remains unseen. Sun Tzu's armies won entire campaigns this way, appearing larger, calmer, or more prepared than they truly were, forcing enemies to retreat from battles they might have won. This same principle explains why some people command respect the instant they enter a room, while others struggle to be taken seriously despite real competence. It is rarely about ability alone. It is about the story others have already been allowed to believe. This is not dishonesty. It is discretion, choosing what to reveal, when, and to whom, so that perception always works in your favor rather than against it. 7 skills. Concealment. Positioning. Understanding people. Patience. Selectivity. Alliances. Perception. None of them require luck. None of them were ever taught in a classroom. And now, only one piece remains, bringing all 7 together into a single, unshakable identity shift. 7 skills. None of them loud. None of them taught in school, in a boardroom, or in a self-help seminar promising shortcuts that never existed. Concealment. Positioning. Reading people. Patience. Selective battles. Silent alliances. Perception. Each one quiet on its own. Together, they form the invisible architecture behind almost every fortune that was ever built to last. Sun Tzu never promised his students an easy war. He promised them a way to win before the war ever truly began, through preparation, timing, and understanding, rather than force and noise. Wealth operates by the same law, whether anyone acknowledges it or not. The people who seem to move through life with quiet advantage are not smarter, and they are rarely luckier. They simply stopped fighting the battles everyone else was taught to fight, and started engineering the ones that actually mattered. This is the shift that separates the average financial life from a strategic one. It is not about working harder than everyone else. It is not about chasing every opportunity that glitters. It is about becoming the kind of person circumstances are eventually forced to favor, because the foundation was already built, long before anyone was watching. You do not need permission to think this way. You do not need capital, connections, or a head start most people assume is required. You need only the willingness to stop reacting, and start positioning. To stop announcing, and start building. To stop mistaking motion for progress. The battlefield has not changed in 2,000 years. Only the terrain has. Sun Tzu handed the map to those willing to study it quietly, while everyone else searched for shortcuts that were never there. The rat race was never unbeatable. It was simply never meant to be fought the way you were taught to fight it. Now you know better.